I was just going to um, remind us that we had asked in the last session to bring or think of something to bring as a source of strength that you use to stay strong against the horrible or negative or really stressful news that comes in about the climate crisis. Could be a photo or a poem or a song or whatever works for you as a source of strength. If you've already thought about this and have brought something to share, great. If you haven't settled on something to share yet, we'll take a moment now to give everyone a chance to think about that question. What helps me stay strong to deal with the frightful and painful realities of climate crisis? Is everybody willing to share something? I'll just pick on somebody if we're ready to go.
I can go if you want.
Great. Okay.
So my source of strength is animals. They're the ones that really make me passionate about, climate change, and they're the ones that really give me the strength to combat this and to fight this.
Awesome. Lindsay?
I think just my friends and them being supportive of me despite like when things are shitty, which is a bunch of times.
That's wonderful. Support group of friends and critters. How about you, Alex?
Oh, sorry. Okay, I was muted. I agree. I will probably bring pictures of my guinea pigs. Because when I see my guinea pigs, I realize like what we're fighting for isn't just ourselves. It's not so human centric, but for all of these creatures that deserve a chance to have their needs met and have a life unblemished by, human destruction.
Yes. Agreed.
Yes, it's so reaffirming to be connected to life. And I'm so glad to hear y'all stepping out of the center of the human story. It takes a lot of humility. And I too share your source of strength. Thank you. And I think our personal sources of strength are what help us get through these traumatic times, because they are increasing in frequency. So that's just what we're going to need to get through what is also known as the death project, known as climate change. So next we'll hear from Lauren, who's going to take it from here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So in tonight's training, we're going to focus on building skills that we need in order to participate in nonviolent civil resistance. So in the last training, the session 1 training, we did send everybody a link to that resource document. And I'm wondering, did everyone get a chance to work on the techniques for calming and grounding handout?
I did not.
That's okay. We'll practice some tonight. But yeah, thanks for letting us know. But hopefully each of you, if you did get the chance to work on it, that you found some things that worked especially well for you, that you plan to continue using. And for tonight, we'll practice a few of them, and we'll start with focusing on the body and some things that we can do on that level. And so, Erica, this can give you a chance to practice some of them as well. And I'll go ahead and get started. So this first technique is called shaking out the tension. And so if everyone wants to stand, if you're able, and find a spot in the room or outside where you have a little space to move around, but still hear my voice. I'll give everyone a few moments to find your spot. And if you do need to remain seated, it's okay to do this from your chair too. Okay. So once you've found your position, just give your body a gentle shake out. Imagine that you're shaking off all the tension, just gently shaking out the arms, the legs, now your whole body. Okay. And next, we're going to move into tapping the body. So just tap the body all over gently with a soft fist or cupped hands. And where your kidneys are, gently rub that area. Try that. We don't recommend tapping there, but rubbing works well. And so the body reads these gentle taps and rubs as an invitation to relax. Now we're going to move into some grounding. Notice how the ground or the chair is meeting your feet, your legs, your seat. What sensations do you feel? Can you allow the physical grounding of the body to communicate a sense of mental, emotional grounding as well? Okay. For this next part, I'll invite you all to sit down in a comfortable position. And a few of the techniques on the handout focus on different ways of working with the breath for calming and grounding. So the more we practice these techniques, the more helpful they'll be when we're in those stressful situations, the more automatic they'll become for us. So let's start with practicing a calming breath. This is an easy way to work with the breath. Just notice the natural movement in and out of the body. Don't try to do anything at all to the breath. Simply follow the experience of breathing, like watching waves wash in and out at the shoreline. When you slip off and forget the breath, just come gently back again. That's it. That's the whole technique. The more you do it, the more benefits you get from doing it. And we'll take a minute for you to simply be aware of the experience of breathing. You can also try breathing out slowly, making your out breath longer than your in breath. You may notice that when you slow the out breath, the speed of your thoughts slow down. You may also notice changes in your emotional or physical states. And when you're ready, you can come back to the room, the Zoom room. Thank you all for taking this time to connect with our bodies, with our breath, get grounded in this space together. This is all the time that we have to practice these techniques for tonight. But I encourage you to select a few of the techniques, either that we tried tonight or from that calming and grounding handout, and work with them every day, especially between now and the action. It really helps to have a plan to decide which one or two that you want to do and when you'll do it. And yeah, I think it's just wanting to acknowledge that the more that we can come from that place of calm and grounding internally, the more that we'll be able to show up in those spaces in nonviolent direct resistance actions in a way that communicates that calming and grounding to others as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, sorry, I have my notes here and I am just gonna turn the page. It looks like Bob, you are next. I'll go ahead and hand it over to you. Oh, and I think you might be muted, Bob.
Little technical difficulties here, So anyway, thank you, Lauren, for the handoff, and welcome all to the training. Let's see what we can do here. To continue, much of how we let people who are disrupting know that we are nonviolent is through our nonverbal communication. And we have a slide from Callie here. Just take a minute to look through it, and we're going to expand on each of these in a little bit. So when people encounter us during an action, the way that they experience us is greatly influenced not only by what we say, but by the way that we say it and by what we communicate through our actions, our facial expressions, the tone, pitch, and loudness of our voices, and how we position our bodies in relationship to those that we are disrupting, and the ways that we move. All of these carry important information. Now we're going to try a guided visualization activity. Notice how this activity, as you go through it, highlights the role of the different forms of nonverbal communications that you see on the screen. You can put the slide down, Callie, please. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat or save them for later. But I would invite you to stay focused right now. Now we're going to prepare ourselves by imagining a situation where you are called to de-escalate in the road. And de-escalate means the opposite of escalating, means that you're trying to seek a calmer path, a calmer action, peace, whatever you want to label it at. But it's by the way that you can act, you can diffuse sometimes hostile or volatile situations. This is going to be an opportunity to face our fears and anxiety about these situations. Facing challenges in our imaginations and working to turn them into something positive prepares us for facing those challenges in real life. So to begin with, find a comfortable, well-supported posture. And if you would like to move away from the screen, as long as you can still hear my voice, that's fine. You may want to use a blanket or an extra sweater to keep warm. Our minds are going to be working, so it is good to really let the body be well supported. Everybody settled in? Great. Okay, now close your eyes, or if you'd rather, you can lower your gaze and bring your attention to your breath as it flows in and out naturally. Now, imagine that you were on an action where you were blocking a motorway junction with a block team. Notice the sounds of the rushing of the traffic on the adjacent roadway, the whoosh in the air as cars speed by, the smell of the asphalt, the sound of car horns, and the sound of people around you. The exact circumstance is up to you. You might be sitting down holding a banner, or standing up talking to people in cars, or face to face with them in your position. Take a moment to really put yourself in the scene. What do you see, feel, and hear from where you stand or sit? Next, imagine you are speaking to a driver who has been stopped. They are furious and very worked up and are directing their frustration towards you. Imagine this person now in your mind's eye and just observe them with curiosity. Observe their physical and emotional appearance, their actions, the sound and tone of their voice, their body language. Try not to react. No judgment, just observe them. And now consider the following. Consider your posture. Can your hands be open and your shoulders relaxed? How can your body language show them that you are open to what they have to say, that you are not a threat to them, that you are not seeking a conflict, but you also are not collapsed or submissive? You are calm, positive, respectful of the other person, but also grounded in nonviolence and your values. You know why you are here, and you are able to be present with the other person. Now consider your face. How much eye contact is too much, so it might be intimidating or confrontational, and how much eye contact is too little, so you might seem avoidant or ignoring the driver. Can your eyes be open and your eyes and your gaze be soft, not a hard stare? Can your facial expression be authentic and true to yourself, not trying too hard or trying to hide your feelings or pretending to be in a particular way? Just be honest and real, calm and grounded. Now listen to your voice as you speak and hear the following: the tone, the speed of your speech, and the volume. How do the qualities of your voice differ from those of the driver? How can you use your voice to keep the temperature low, to not inflame the situation? Are you truly listening to the other person or just waiting for your turn to speak? And now consider your position. How much space between you feels appropriate and respectful? What feels uncomfortably close? What feels too far away, creating detachment? Imagine changing your position to see how changing your posture and position affects the way things feel between the two of you. How is it different if you are standing up versus sitting down? And how does that change the dynamic between the two of you? Remember that your role is not to dominate or to win. It is to maintain the nonviolent container, not to give this already tense situation any more fuel to cause it to escalate. Sometimes success equals managing to not make things worse. And now, see if you can generate feelings of kindness and compassion for the driver. Recognize and respect that they are having their lives disrupted, and thus it is causing them pain. This pain is real. Can you see beyond their anger and see their humanity, their pain and suffering, but also their capacity of kindness, generosity, and forgiveness. And in doing so, can you see your own humanity, your own capacity for anger, pain, kindness, joy, and forgiveness? And now, bid the driver in your mind farewell. Reflect back on your experience, noting anything that especially stood out. Did you become aware of how noticing your own nonverbal communications can help you let others know that you are meeting with them with openness and acceptance? What did you notice about your posture, about your voice, your facial expression? Did you get a sense of how noticing the nonverbal messages that others are sending can help you understand how to respond to them? So when you are ready, you may like to gently wiggle your fingers and toes, have a little stretch, and then open your eyes. Bring your focus to be fully alert and present with the group. Look at the light on your camera or your phone screen to establish eye contact. Make your voice a bit brighter and more energized than it was during the guided reflection. And thanks so much for the work that you just did. Remember that the act of imagining doing something has practical value for helping people to develop the ability to do these things. And next, we're going to take a 10-minute break. So please be sure to refresh yourself as you need be. And we're going to return to the session at 7:47.
Well, shall we get started? Yeah. Hopefully she'll join us. So next we're going to look at the 5 stages of de-escalation. And I think we have a slide for y'all. So just please take a moment to write down the 5 steps of de-escalation. In a few minutes, we are going to do a role play where you'll be asked to try out using these steps. And it might be helpful to have them written down for that. If you don't have, I mean, I guess you could use a phone. So the first step in the de-escalation process is to breathe. When you encounter someone during an action who is upset or angry about what is happening, before you do anything else, take a moment to connect with your breath. Taking a slow, deep breath will help you to calm you down. This will put you in a better place to respond to the other person. Next, remember that this person is in the same boat that you are, whether they know it or not. Climate catastrophe will affect them in the coming years, just as it will you. Remember their humility, or sorry, their humanity. Just like you, they want for themselves and the people who they love to be well and happy. Grounding yourself physically with the breath and mentally with your awareness of shared humanity, you put yourself in a good place to be able to listen to what the person who is upset has to say. Listening may be the most important thing we have to offer to most of the people who we encounter during a disruptive action, such as a roadblock. We won't usually be able to do what they want us to do. We won't be able to end the disruption, but we can hear how what we are doing is affecting them. By doing that, we accept responsibility for our actions and for their consequences, and we provide the necessary conditions for moving to the next step in de-escalation. Being able to truly listen gives us the understanding that is necessary in order to be able to respond with real empathy, which is to say something that will let the person know that we have heard them, that we understand what they are telling us, and that we feel for what they are going through. Put yourself in their place and make it clear that you are sorry, not for what you're doing, but for how they are being affected by your having a reason to need to do it. For example, I am sorry that we need to take this action in order to try to prevent even greater harm. Or another example is, I'm truly sorry you are caught up in this situation. Having taken these first 4 steps in the de-escalation process puts you in a good position to move to the 5th step. If you have been able to establish an empathic connection, then you can ask for permission to explain to them what you are doing and why you're doing it. There are 2 key points to remember about asking for permission to explain why you are engaged in the action. First, resist the temptation to explain the reasons for the action too early in the interaction. Hence the breathing. An angry motorist who rushes up to you at a roadblock saying, "Why are you doing this?" does not usually want to hear all about the climate crisis. "Why are you doing this?" actually means stop doing this. Often people will begin by asking why you are disrupting them. You'll get farther in the long run by taking that deep breath, remembering your shared humanity, listening to the feelings behind the words, and saying something like, "I can understand you being angry about what we're doing." Another pitfall to avoid when asking for permission to talk about why you're doing the action comes up if the person agrees to hear your explanation. An agreement to hear about why you're doing the action does not mean that the person is necessarily up for hearing everything you have to say on the subject. And it does not mean that you're on the verge of landing a new recruit for declare emergency. Stay aware of how you have this, on what you have to say is being received, and be ready to stop explaining if the other person looks like they have had enough, or if you feel like your explanations are becoming less of a sharing of information and more of an argument. If at any point during these 5 steps of de-escalation, you think that your attempts to communicate are making things worse, then withdraw. Throughout an action, remain aware of what other de-escalators are doing and how you are affecting one another's efforts. Remember that 2 or more people rushing to de-escalate can feel an awful lot like an escalation to the person or the people who are on the receiving end. Avoid rushing or running, even rushing to help, because that can tend to increase tension. While these 5 stages tend to build on each other, each one supporting the one that follows, it isn't always going to be necessary to do them strictly in order during an action. That's not how life works. The point is to learn each stage well and to understand its purpose so that you can use them skillfully in the midst of real life situations where, because there's humans involved, things can get complicated. Best way to learn to do this is by practicing. So we do role plays. We'll do one role play tonight just to begin to get a feel for what's involved. And then during session 3, in person, we'll break into smaller groups to give everyone a chance to practice again. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. So now I get to lead you all in a role play. And for this role play, we're going to need 2 volunteers. And the role play is going to be taking place during an imaginary roadblock action. So one volunteer will play the role of the roadblocker, and the other will play the role of a driver who has been stopped in the block. And then the rest of the group will be in the observer role. So let's see, actually, maybe I should pause here and just see do I have anybody who's interested in volunteering for the role of the roadblocker?
I'm happy to do either. I don't have a preference of which.
Sounds good. Well, Lindsay, would you like to be the roadblocker?
Sure.
Sounds good. Okay, Erica, would you be comfortable doing the driver role? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I'll explain a little bit about each role. So the driver, Erica, their job is to be as totally and fully into their role as they can be. So no laughing to break the tension, and just keeping in mind that if you don't commit fully to the role, this role is really important. So committing fully is really important to making it work. And your job, Lindsay, is to communicate nonviolence in all of your nonverbal expressions, and use as many of the de-escalation strategies that we've talked about this evening as possible during the role play. And then the observer is just to observe and notice how the things that the roadblocker says and does seem to affect the driver. So in this situation, the observers are going to be the facilitators. And if Alex happens to join us, she can be an observer as well. So I think just to name that that observer role, it's really helpful to notice what worked well and what didn't. And Erica, in your role too, and Lindsay, both from your perspectives, kind of reflecting on that at the end will be helpful. So in a few minutes, I'm going to start the role play by saying 1, 2, 3, go. And the role play will last for 3 minutes. And I will stop the role play by saying stop. So just to name that, we want to make sure that everybody is comfortable. So if at any point anybody needs to stop the role play for any reason, just shout stop, and the role play will stop. And I'm just scrolling through my notes here. And if the road blocker, if it seems like whatever the road blocker is doing, Lindsay, is making it worse, feel free to withdraw. Just remember, we're not trying to win, we're trying to turn down the heat. Yeah. This is not a drama club. We are doing this to prepare each other for the real thing. And we have a duty of care and responsibility to help each other practice and prepare. And so this work is really important for that. And by getting fully into the role, Erica, by getting fully in the role and getting angry and just allowing whatever feelings come up for you in that moment, that's going to be really helpful at preparing all of us for that that moment and preventing any possible shock or trauma related to that experience later. So just encouraging you to fully embrace that role. And we know from experience that people who have had this experience as part of their training find it much easier to cope in an action. Okay, so now that I've gone through the description of each role and just named some important points to keep in mind, I'm wondering, Lindsay and Erica, if either of you have any questions.
I think my only one is a measure of like, do y'all proactively go and talk to people, or are you waiting for people to like be angry and approach you first?
That's a great question. So I will say for the role play, and I'll give Erica, I will be giving you like a little bit more instructions on the background of kind of what we're walking into. But for this role play, Erica will approach you first. But I'm wondering, Tim or Bob, if either of you would like to respond to the question about just in general at roadblocks, how that's handled. Bob, go for it.
Usually the roadblock is set up where somebody will slow the traffic, and then in the case of one of my roadblock, Ali led us across the road, and we sort of stood arm's length, almost fingers touching, and with our open palms, and you stare at the cars, or you try to make eye contact with the drivers in the first row that have stopped, wondering why probably. And when it feels comfortable and that people are fully stopped, and then you can sit down and feel the pavement, all the visualizations that we've taken you through. And at that point, there comes, usually not from somebody in the front row, although sometimes yes, but people will come up to you and say blah 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 blah, and throwing their arms around and disturbed and angry and in pain and whatever else. So that's remembering the things that we've just talked about tonight and in the first session. Just remember that they are human. They weren't expecting this. They were having a nice little drive down the highway, and suddenly it all came crashing down. So that's kind of the place where you start working with them, and just be open and try to empathize a little bit, but remain firm and committed to your mission. Does that sound right to everybody? Okay. Kelly? Unmute, please.
I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, yes, Bob, that sounds just, I was almost there with you. You were describing it so well. I just wanted to add one piece that people probably want to know about, which is that also typically the people sitting in the road as Bob describes. That's how that is. But also, typically, we have a couple of people who are standing. And these are people, not tend to be, these are people that have had more experience. And they're there, not necessarily to intercept motorists coming towards the block, but to be there in case there's a need for some extra help with the de-escalating. So there will be people there for that as well.
Thanks, Callie. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Lindsay. That's a great question. Do Erica or Lindsay, do either of you have any more? No? Okay. Oh, Eric, I think you're muted.
Okay, I guess I
Yeah.
have one for the sake of the role.
Yeah.
Do you guys tend to have a lot of people that are cursing at you, or just raised voices? I'm just trying to kind of really get into the role.
Can I just say
Callie, go for it.
Yeah. So Lauren's going to say a little more in a minute, Erica, to help you get into the role. So my suggestion is that you let that happen, because it's going to be like whatever people usually do. This is for you to do what feels right to you right now. That's okay with you.
Yeah.
Right? It's a vulnerable thing to do. Really appreciate you being willing to do it.
Yeah.
We can have some more of that other kind of conversation maybe later, and
Okay.
just see if you feel ready to go after Lauren gives you the rest of your instructions. Okay.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Thanks, Callie. Okay, so with that, Erica, for this role, you've just learned that someone you love has been injured in a car accident and is in the hospital. You're hurrying to find out how badly injured they are. So for this part, take a moment to decide who that person in the hospital will be. Okay, and now picture the hospital and the route from your house to there, and where the roadblock has stopped you. And now I'll let you take a minute to really get into the situation and feel kind of whatever's coming up for you and just how you would respond as Erica McCormick in this situation. And 1, 2, 3, go.
So okay, I should start first. Okay. Why are you in the middle of the road? Can you please leave the road? My mom's in the hospital and I need to go check on her. My cell phone battery's dead and I'm not able to call anybody. Can you please get out of the road?
Hi. Thank you for raising that. I'm sorry that your mom is in the hospital, first of all. I we're part of an organization that's causing a disruption for right now. It will be over soon, so you will still be able to get to see your mom later. Is there anything that I can do to help you right now to see her? If you need a cell phone to call her or anyone to contact to let them know that you will be a little bit late in this situation. this is a disruption that'll probably take maybe about an hour, and then you will be able to keep moving.
Well, if my mom's in the hospital and I don't know what kind of condition she's in, if she's in critical condition, I have no idea if she's going to even be alive in an hour. So the thing you can do for me is move out of the road. All you're doing is hurt other people.
I'm sorry that you're in I'm sorry that we happened to get you at a time that you need to move. We're desperately I hear you, and I hear your frustration, and I'm sorry we're not able to move right now. The point that we're trying to make is that we're all experiencing that same crisis, and I understand that it's different when it's personal to you right now. If you want, I can explain to you why we are doing this. If that will help you, I can also help you try and contact whoever you need to see what condition your mom is in.
Well, I would definitely prefer to see her. I mean, she is my mom, and you guys are here doing a roadblock for a crisis that who knows if it's even going to happen? Who knows if it's real? But my mom could be in a crisis right now. So I feel like it's kind of selfish that you guys are sitting here doing this and blocking people who have things to do.
There's also people all over the world in a crisis right now who are impacted by increasing disasters and having their homes destroyed from various other issues. And we're here to make the point that other people are also experiencing crises and experiencing more. I'm not able to end this entire action for you right now, but I'm happy to help you in any way that we can and assure you that it'll be over for I am not sure if it is over in an hour, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to say an hour. I'm here to assure you that within an hour, traffic will be moving again and you will be able to see her. And it will be okay. But we're unable to stop this disruption now. We're trying to get the point across that emergencies like this are going to happen more and more, and it won't be a roadblock. It will be natural disasters. It will be people being unable to live in conditions like this.
Well, my mom might not have an hour. And if I get through in an hour and she's passed away, the blood is on all of your hands.
Stop.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. I was like, oh my God, I feel horrible.
Oh,
That's
thank
really
you.
not how I am, Lindsay.
No, I know, you're all good.
Oh my God.
There's a parting comment right there,
Yeah.
Ugh.
You know, I was going to say take 3 deep breaths to help get grounded and come back to the room. And I would still welcome you to do that, but I think laughter is also an excellent way to do that too. So
Oh,
I'll give you a moment to take 3 deep breaths and get grounded. Okay. Thank you both so much for that. I know it's hard. It's hard to be in that space and to commit to that. And so I'd like to just give you a moment to offer yourselves thanks for what you just did. And I wonder, Erica, would you feel ready to share, just as the driver, how Lindsay's efforts, what helped you calm down?
Well, one thing that I thought was kind of effective was when I had said that, my mom's in a crisis now. Where you guys are doing this roadblock for crises that might not even happen. And then she kind of countered with, well, this is happening, and she gave some examples. And I liked that. I thought, because like when she said that, I was kind of like, it kind of made me slow down and think like, okay, she's right, so it kind of, yeah, just slowed my thinking down, I guess. But I thought that that was a good point to make.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Allie.
Can I just jump in here because I'm
Yeah,
really surprised to
absolutely.
hear you say that. Because the way you responded in the role play was to get more angry again.
Yeah.
As I was do you think maybe you had two minds about that? That there was the way.
I don't know if it was maybe like, I don't know. I think though that it was just a good point to make. I don't know.
Somehow you did
It
both,
just,
right? You thought it was a good point, and that's when you came with the bloods on your hand.
yeah, like it got me thinking, but then I don't know if it was like, oh, she, called me, on my shit kind of. And then that made me like angrier, like, oh, she was right. And maybe that would make me angry, and then I would say that. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I mean, it was a good point to make. Whether or not, like, I don't know, that was the time and place. I don't know.
Well,
I think I was, yeah, I don't
how you
know.
experienced it, and I don't mean to. It's just the next thing you said was the blood is on your head, so
Yeah,
you didn't
yeah.
seem like you were appreciating it at the moment, but maybe you were actually on another.
Like, yeah. I mean, at the time, no, but like after after we did that, that's kind of the first thing that popped into my mind.
Mhm.
At the time I was going off of my emotions, but then when we like ended the role play, like that's the thing that stuck in my head. And I think that that's really good because some people don't know that. And at the end of the day, that's what that person's going to remember.
Mhm. Thanks, Erica, for sharing. Yeah, and it sounds like Lindsay, I wonder if you just kind of in that moment too noticed if in that moment how you felt Erica responded, or if there was another moment that stood out to you that you'd like to talk about, something that you did that you noticed either seemed to help or not help.
Yeah. In general, that was also just harder than I thought. um in that moment, I suppose I felt more like I should probably move on because I don't think anything I can say will like combat emotions in that moment. Um
Just what emotions were you perceiving in that moment?
uh both anger and like guilt, I suppose, on Erica's part of like not being able to make a crisis and having like literally like to no fault of her own, and to also like not like both anger towards us for it happening and also anger in herself for not being able to like do something more and get to it like a situation of crisis.
Thanks, Lindsay. Yeah, what else stood out? Maybe Callie or Tim or Bob. What did you notice that seemed to help, and specifically helping Erica calm down? So I know, Erica, you mentioned that there was that one thing that kind of helped you later maybe reflect on it a little bit differently. But I think for the focus of this exercise, what did you notice, Tim, Callie, Bob, that really helped Erica seem to kind of calm down a little bit? Tim.
Yeah, I liked how, Lindsay, you mirrored back what you've been told to let her know that you heard her. That was really helpful. Like I don't think you missed a beat. You even offered the phone right away. So I thought that was really great. But at the same time, Erica didn't waste any time pressing back, and so you guys were going. It almost felt like an argument, and so this is just a question: if this happens, this kind of back and forth, is that when, I mean, was that looking like the time to take another breath, give that that space a little bit more of a emptiness, like, so that so feelings can have a chance to de-escalate, and what are some of the nonverbal communications that could be used from the first session to help achieve that goal, like to reach out with body language, with empathy, and really really feel what Erica is saying. I don't know. Easier said than done, but
Yeah, I think I definitely could have like taken a second to be like let's take a second and like
did you do the breathing? I mean, do you feel like you were
I
able
don't
to take
think I
that?
stopped once I like started. But I feel at the beginning I was like, okay, I'll like take a second, breathe, calm down, but then like didn't like de-escalate myself, if that makes sense.
Callie, jump in. Yeah.
I just thought this was really a great role play because it both of you went through different shifts and changes that were really visible. Like you could see you working, Lindsay. Really, I mean, in the beginning, I think I saw you working to slow yourself down, like in your mind. Like, okay, wait a minute, don't say that yet. Like it's almost like I could see you thinking that a few times, and kind of maybe you weren't taking a breath, but I saw you doing that work, and you were focusing on. You got really empathic with her really fast, and you were reflecting back accurately what she was feeling, like all of that joining stuff. And as a result of that, it got to a point where it did make sense to me, and watching you, and tell me if I'm misunderstood, but it did make sense for you to ask her if it would have. The way you put that, you didn't say, "Can I tell you some more?" You said, "If it will help you to understand, I could tell you something about why we're here." I just thought that was a great way to put that. We've got to include that in our examples of language, because it came out of your empathy. You're like, you could use my cell phone, or I could tell you something about why we're here, if that would help, right? But it wasn't like about you needed to make a statement. It really came like, how did that feel to you, Erica?
Um, yeah, I think I don't really know. I'm like, mean, I definitely, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, like how to word it. I
Because
might have.
you said yes, right? You agreed to hear something, and
Mhm,
then you got mad,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Which I can imagine would have been really challenging for you, Lindsay, because there you are, you're getting the empathy going, you're making the connection, and then all of a sudden she's going to be mad at you again, right?
Yeah.
You thought you were past that, right? But no,
Yeah.
she's still mad. Um,
I feel like in a situation as like important as that, I would probably find it difficult to ever understand. Like, I would find it difficult to actually listen to somebody um explain why they're doing that. Like, my mom's in the hospital, like that's a big deal, but I do like think that she did a really good job with the reflecting back, like you said, um and like kind of her tone of voice. um she didn't come off as aggressive or um you know condescending. Like, she kind of came off as somebody that I would want to talk to if I were not in that type of situation.
uh-huh. Yeah, you're making a connection. You could see. I mean, yeah. I and I wonder if the other thing I'm wondering about is that as the person who is working to de-escalate there, it's like we've presented these 5 stages, and that seems as if there's somewhere we're wanting to get to, and that may be something we need to emphasize more in the training. It's that there isn't any bow to tie this interaction up in, right? There's no finish. There's no success except for keeping the relationship as positive as possible. So when Erica got angry, that was in a way may have felt like a step backwards for you, Lindsay, because like you're moving along with the de-escalating, and that was actually a time to you heard that she was angry. Well, like, I'm hearing you're angry, right? Like, to take a step back and just go back to the listening again, right? Like, there's no finish line in this conversation. And that's what Tim was saying about maybe often the main thing we have to offer is the listening. Nothing's gonna make her happy. That's what I noticed. Thank you both so much, Miss.
Yeah, thank you, Callie. Bob.
Yeah, I'll just make a couple of comments. I think the most important thing when somebody comes at you very angrily and in your face, it's like, as Tim was saying, just take the breath, go and feel your inner strength and know why you're there and feel your commitment. And then you can talk and be very careful not to, I think you don't have to be like a robot when you talk to people. You should be trying to personalize it and use the empathy and all that stuff and see where they're coming from, but try not to be flip or anything like that. It's like, roll the eyeballs or like act like you're disgusted with the way they're acting, because they're truly upset. Erica was upset because she didn't know what was happening with her mom. um, I was thinking maybe she would have used the phone to call the hospital to see if that could find out, and maybe that was I'm pretty sure Lindsay, after she got the blood off her hands, would probably have loaned her the cell phone, or one of the de-escalators sometimes have their phones there so they can offer them to people. There there are some actions where people can get uh, violent toward you, like grab you by your safety vest and try to pull you off the road, which usually means as soon as they let go of you, you just go back to your position. And that that can happen. But just remember that you're there to do a job, and your job is to be nonviolent, and your job is to make a point and be supportive of the team around you. And there's such strength in that, you won't believe it when you get out there. Check.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, Lindsay, I just want to echo kind of what everyone is saying. I think just your ability to communicate your empathy and really your nonverbals and the tone of your voice really, to me, just you took that very soothing tone, and this is a really hard situation, and it's real, and I think you showed up in just a really genuine way, and just really wanting to care about what Erica was experiencing, and just showing that really genuine feeling of conflict that you were feeling. And so I think that that really stood out to me, that those nonverbals, your tone of voice, just hanging in there with her. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Erica, Lindsay, for diving in and doing that with us. And thanks to everyone for giving your feedback or your observations. So in session 3 of the training, we're going to be doing role play work in person. So there will be more opportunities to develop skills in this way. And so something that will help prepare you for the actions, again, will be just continuing to read over the skills building handouts and working on them between now and then. And the more you practice these basic skills in the coming week, the more you'll get out of having the chance to apply them during that last session. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Kelly.
Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, before we close tonight, we wanted to take some time to talk a little bit about what to expect if you're arrested, and whether you're planning to be an arrestable in the our next week of actions, or whether that's something you might be ready to do next month. We're expecting our actions to be ongoing, so next week won't be the only chance for taking this kind of step. But it seemed like it would be good to have some basic beginning information. This won't be comprehensive. We'll talk more about what to expect during session 3, and when you're in an action planning phase, the action leader will also talk with you about what to expect with arrest around a particular action. So this is just a bit to let you know a bit about what to expect. We're keeping in mind that we're doing these actions in order to bring the most powerful force that's available to us to make President Biden declare a climate emergency, to use his powers, to take the strongest possible actions that he can to limit the extent of the climate catastrophe, which is already on us. We expect that when we do nonviolent civil resistance actions, some of us will be arrested. This is part of the disruption and the sacrifice. It's this willingness to risk arrest that communicates a willingness to sacrifice for something that's more important than our own personal comfort. And that is what communicates the importance of our demand. Not arguing about it, not presenting a good case, but by what we're doing with our bodies. That gets under the barriers that argument raises, right? Arguments tend to polarize, but this is what we're going for with sacrificial actions. So whether you're ready to commit to risking arrest right now or sometime down the road, we wanted you to know a little bit about what to expect. First, you should know that Declare Emergency provides around-the-clock jail support from the moment you step into action to the moment that you're released from jail. So for the first-time arrest, if you're being arrested in Washington, D.C., we have enough experience so far to say if things continue as they have been, what you can expect is to be handcuffed at the place where you're arrested, handcuff you behind your back usually, and then driven to a district jail in a van with others who are arrested with you. The women on one side of the van and the men on the other. It's often a time of a lot of relief, at least with roadblock actions. You know that we did it. Everybody's safe, and it's for me anyway, always a time of a lot of relief. People have even been known to sing a bit, you know, in the van riding to jail. And then they're at the jail. I should also say handcuffs are pretty uncomfortable if you've not been handcuffed before, and can be quite painful. I think it's good to know that. It can be surprising if you weren't expecting it. But then, so you stay handcuffed until you get to the jail. And then at the jail, you spend most of your time waiting. There's lots of waiting. You're waiting while the people in your group are being processed. You know, they take turns, one person at a time. Once you've gotten your handcuffs off and have been put in your cell, then you'll be waiting there, and one person at a time will be taken to get fingerprinted. You will get a light pat down before you're put in the cell. And usually the cell you're with others in your group. Again, they do a gender binary thing as far as we've experienced so far that I know about. I think one exception where there was some more flexibility around just the strict men here and women there was that one of the people in our group who's a gay man, I can't remember if he volunteered that information or if they asked him. And they did, when he was put in the central cell block for overnight, put him in a cell by himself when he let them know that he was gay. And I think that was, you know, intended to be something for his protection. That's how he took it. But here at the beginning, usually in the precinct level, men in one jail, women in the other jail, is how that usually goes that we know about. While you're in custody, the jail support team is going to be staying in touch with the jail where you've been held. And outside legal support will also be in touch to make sure that your release is processed smoothly as possible. It typically takes, in a first-time arrest in DC, around 5 hours to go from arrival at the jail to being released. And then typically also in DC, people with no prior arrests are released without bond, and you know, given a court date at that time. When you get out of jail, somebody from jail support will be there to bring you food. Usually we ask for people's what would be their favorite treat to get when they get out of jail, you know, to appreciate you very much and take you where you need to go from there. So there's also, we have some experience with actions in Maryland. There, the arrest process, we expect to go based on our 2 past experiences with groups being arrested there, in much the same way that it has in DC, but with the only difference being that it will most likely take longer to be released. And that's the arrest process. There are also sentencing differences in Maryland as well. The sentences have been like longer, like a few days rather than nothing. So if you were considering an action in Maryland, your action leader would be talking with you in more detail about that. And then also for other kinds of actions that are not roadblocks, there are a whole lot of other legal things to think about. That would be something your action leader would be talking over with you at that time. So, are there questions about what I just laid out? Did that all make sense? And does anybody want to add anything just about the basic roadblock experience with both Maryland and I know Tim and Bob both have Maryland experience and I don't. Did it seem accurate to you all to say basically similar to DC, but longer to get through the whole initial being arrested and taken to jail process? Not getting into court and sentencing and all that for me. Yeah, Bob.
The differences that I saw, and you can say 5 hours, but you know, in DC, I think I was in there for about 28, and in Maryland, it was probably about 23 or so. In other words, we spent overnight in each of the facilities, and I believe that in DC, you appear before a judge in the morning, or you appear before a judge, so you get a mini arraignment there, and it's more like a bail bond settlement than it is an arraignment. They tell you what your charges are, and you get to be released after that on your own cognizance, unless you have, as Kelly was saying, a prior record and you're thought to be a danger to the community or something. And in Maryland, we didn't get so much separated up into individual cells as we did in DC, but instead you were asked to go in the middle of the night to, I think it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I got to appear before the bonds person when our attorney, Mark Goldstone, was on the phone. So it was a two-way conference in the jail with me and this other person, and Mark Goldstone calling in. I don't know if it was a Zoom call or I think just a voice call at that point. So it's a little bit, you have to resign yourself that you are in the system, and whatever reason or whatever thing you did to get there, you know, it's all about control, and they're the ones who are going to keep you according to rules of incarceration.
Bob, just to clarify your experience in DC, that was the 28 hours or the 23?
I was thinking I was 28.
Yeah. So, and that's very unusual for DC.
It could have been. I don't think it was DC. I think it was in New York at one point, but the local jail was closed, and we had to go to a different jail instead. So I think maybe there was a little glitch in DC the same way that we went to a further jail away than what we had been. And there were 3 of us, so we were together for a while, and then we got put into separate cells, and then the next morning we all got picked up, put in another paddy wagon to go down to a transport vehicle to get to the another jail that was in the bottom of the courthouse.
Yeah,
and there you were just sort of in, I think there were 3 different rooms that we got moved to, and finally to the final appearance. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to totally interrupt you because
we're getting late.
Well, it's just you have a lot of experience, right? And you're speaking from a really broad experience base, and it's good to hear about that. And I think that deserves its own kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Just for these guys right now, people who haven't been arrested before, I think it's good to be clear that if you're arrested for a first time arrest in DC, unless it's late in the day, you're going to be released the same day. If it's late in the day, you might be kept overnight. So that's one of the reasons we actually incline towards, morning actions to give people a chance on first time actions to be released. Although, this is again something you would discuss with the action leader in your mobilization group. Is this group up for coming later in the day because there's some strategic advantage to that, even though the risk might be for an overnight? And then what Bob is describing, where you're taken to see a judge, that happens. That's why you're kept overnight, because you have to go see a judge. If it's the 5 hours and you're released from the local precinct, you don't see a judge. The precinct processes all that and tells you to get out of there. They don't want to keep you around. Life is
I think
easy.
part of mine was that we were arrested on Friday, so it was going into the weekend, and it was actually Indigenous Peoples Day weekend. So there were some people who might be having a holiday on the weekend or being out of there. Whether there was low staff or not, I'm not really sure. But it's like Callie said, expect to wait,
Yeah.
and then you wait some more after you've waited to be waiting. It's just on and on.
Yeah,
Check.
it helps if you like silence and solitude and spaciousness in your day. But so Tim, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit of another dimension to all of the great logistics, because I too felt I was on the same schedule in a different season as Bob was explaining. It all sounded familiar. Got out of there at the wee hours of the morning, and it was very disorienting on the sleep schedule part. But hopefully you won't have to deal with that. But what I was going to say is just be prepared. I don't know. It was two emotions that came up for me that I'll remember for a long time is just how good it felt to just be in there, like my whole body behind the bars with my co-supporters. It just felt like a spiritual practice. I don't know a better word for it, but it just felt so right. Like any kind of apprehension or fear that I had about being controlled, like losing all the freedom and all, it just felt like the right place to be. And the other thing is this intense feeling of sadness came over me for the people who were doing the processing. I was totally unprepared for that. If you can imagine, their 40-hour work week is in a place that doesn't have windows, that is seeing the parts of the world, the people, the side of people that as a result of a system of scarcity that we all have to fight and struggle for. And just the whole humanity part of it, like the people that need the job, that have to work those conditions, who have to deal with all the rule breakers and the people who are lost in the world and show up at their door every day, is really something to see, and it's hard to watch. So I had a lot of empathy for the people who are working there, and yeah, just wanted to mention that, because you guys are both very empathetic, and so I know it's gonna make an impression on you too. So yeah, check.
Thanks so much, Tim. Feeling like taking a breath right now. This is a really rich time with you all. I wanted to mention there's a link now in the chat. Wanted to ask if everybody would go visit that link and click on it to make sure you have a good connection there. This is a link of resources that will build on what we've been working on. Some of them give you steps in the pathway to action, ways to sign up to help with different aspects of the work we do in order to put on actions. Takes a lot of like 10 people doing other work in order to get one person in the road. It's our formula. So if you're not coming to DC right now, that doesn't mean there aren't things you can do right now to help this action. We especially are going to be needing, Timken is your resource person, but we need people to do social media posting, or is it reposting, Tim, of things that we'll be posting on the Declare Emergency site?
I'm sorry?
See, I was just saying we're going to be needing people to help with social media over the action period. So for dates.
Yes.
Yeah. So you want to say a little bit about that, Tim?
Sure. Yeah. So depending on your availability, we're looking for folks who we can populate a roster spreadsheet of each day of the week, who can just kind of hold down the fort while others are going in and out of actions. So far, I think we have 2 folks available, maybe 3, who can do social media posts. So if you all are familiar with a particular platform, whether it's Facebook, the Declare Emergency platforms are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if we had one person on each of those domains, or maybe a pair of domains, because I think once you make one post, it's really easy to cut and paste to do another one. It's like another minute or 2. But yeah, does anybody have a platform that they're willing to cover a shift or 2 or 3 during the week?
I'm going to totally interrupt you just to say, how about this? If you're up for helping out with social media, even if you don't exactly know what you'd be doing, you need a little more information. If you just put that in the chat right now, and Tim will contact you. Is that good, Tim?
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, it's sort of pointless to be doing all this stuff if nobody knows we did it. So, that would be fabulous. Anything anybody can do.
One thing I can share from my first and last action was that the train ride home, if anybody's taking the train, I got a lot of time on the DE social media site. So you could think about your travel, if you have that luxury of just riding on a train and they have internet access, that's also a good opportunity. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, so the resource sheet, you've got the connection with Tim now, but the resource sheet will give you, if you haven't already, a place to sign up for other things you think you might be interested in helping with. And it also gives you some very good, very fundamental links to 2 talks by Roger Hallam and to the NVCR trainings that Rowan Tilley has given for Just Stop Oil, and before that for Insulate Britain, and before that for XR UK. She's done all their training designs, and that's what our training is based on, the work that she did. And so we've got some YouTube links to her talks if you want to go, and she delves a little bit differently than how we did in some places. So it's a very good resource. So yes, enjoy your resource sheet. That's there. And there's also a link to where to go to get information about the Session 3 trainings we're doing next week. So those will be posted on the website as soon as we nail down the locations. And so everybody who is up for coming to those, it'd be great to see you there next week in person, where we can do some more role plays, but this time with like pulling people off the road and like Tim, I think, was saying, practicing crawling back on the road after you get pulled off. Fun stuff like that. It's really good. So, yeah, you know, the skills that we've been developing here with this work, they help us get better at observing our own internal states, like we've talked about, at observing the behavior of others. And they also teach us to respond to the things that we observe, right? Both internally and externally, and to respond in ways that move ourselves and others to more nonviolent spaces, right? If there's a goal, if you want to think about a goal when you're engaged in an action, it's not to change somebody's mind. It's to make a different kind of relationship, a connection that they will take with them and to make an impression so that they continue to be involved and not checked out on what we were there about, the reason we were there. You know, the next time they see a headline, they'll think about us, and maybe they'll stay with it a little bit longer than they would have before. So these skills that we're building for that purpose, they take practice. So you all just been great, really great. And then with practice, this is all going to get even more comfortable and even more just familiar, like everything does with practice. So, yeah, really appreciate everybody being here and everything that brought you here, the reasons for being here, and what we can do together based on the strengths and the intentions that we bring together. Let's just take a moment to have 3 breaths, and I'll appreciate that together. If you need to get in touch with the NVCR training group, you can do that through Declare Emergencies Proton Mail and at the Declare Emergency website, contact information. So we're here. We're here, and I think all of us are probably connected on Signal and through email now too. So please always feel free to reach out to any of us anytime. Glad to hear from you. Okay. I think it's time to say goodbye
Yeah.
for now.
If you want to contact me, you'll find me listed as the Salty Dog on Signal.
Salty Dog Bob.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. And good night, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everybody, so
We'll
much.
see you on the highway.
Looking forward to the next thing. Thanks.